What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk and Xbox Podcast, episode number 110, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, aka The Muffin Mon, and today I am joined by my usual co-host, Mr. Physical Copy himself, Ethan. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Kevin. For any first-time audio listeners or watchers, just know I have a better mic setup than this. I'm using my lap. You know that thing when you're packing for a vacation and you're like, I know I forgot something, but I can't for the life of me figure out what it was. So I'm just going to rock with it, and we're going to figure this out. I'm 100 miles down the road, right, driving to Corpus Christi, Texas, and I go, my mic and camera for the podcast that I'm literally doing tonight.
Don't you hate? It's always like the worst possible time when you just suddenly realize, like, that was it. That's what I was thinking about an hour and a half ago. But
oh yeah, Ghostly March said I'm in a witness protect. Yeah, I went against the mob. I finally broke out of it. No, I'm in Port Aransas, Texas. I'm in a hotel right now. About to get some sun. Maybe it might rain all weekend actually, but I'm fine with that too. So I'm excited.
CIA black site has you off the grid. Yeah. Well, we'll deal with it for this episode. But again, he does have a better mic, all right. So if you come back next week, better quality.
You'll see me in all my beauty,
all his gorgeous beauty. Yep. But remember, if you do like the podcast, we're live every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern time right here on YouTube. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on your favorite podcast service. While you're over there, please drop us a rating or review. It helps us grow, gets us in that algorithm that everyone loves to talk about. If you want to interact with us more, please come join the Discord. The link is down in the description below. And I just added roles to the Discord, all right? So now when you come in, you're like, I'm really only a fan of Project XTalk. I'm going to click this role. So when we tag Project XTalk fans for questions, you get tagged, and you don't have to deal with getting tagged for every single podcast we do here at Save the Game
you won't get 100 notifications from food chat. That tends to happen sometimes.
I didn't put food chat fans. Missed the opportunity, but if you do want to support us further and get early access to all of our content, like No Limits, Frame by Frame, I Hate My Friends, plus the plethora of exclusive Patreon podcasts that we do, head on over to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia. Choose the tier that is right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So shout out to Bucky Blue, Hopple, Alpaca Tom, Amon, SAZ, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Anna Hudock, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Always Be, and Mimi J. Thank you so much for supporting us. We appreciate every single one of you. I almost said Mimi J's real name, but I should update that for our other shows. But if you listen,
not the best with the Patreon shout outs. You try your best.
I try. They come, they go.
I think we're doing all right.
Yeah. Well, Ethan, glad to have you here. I've had a rough day, so I'm glad here to be podcasting. But
I missed you last week. Ryan Turford did a great job filling in as always, but I did miss our weekly chat about Xbox last week, so it's good to be back.
Oh, that was last week, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, that feels like a lifetime ago.
I took a podcasting vacation, and now I'm on a real vacation and podcasting on that real vacation. I can never just line things up, can I?
Seems like you should have done the opposite.
I don't think these things through, Kevin.
Well, we can start the show as we usually do by going around the room and asking one question. And that question is, what have you been playing?
I mean, God of War Ragnarok. That's all I've been playing. I did jump back into Modern Warfare 2, actually. With Garrett, we actually played some Warzone. It's the first time in my life I've ever played Warzone. They just released Warzone 2.0, and it's fantastic. It's a great battle royale. I've recently, this last year, gotten into Fortnite, so I've sort of been, dipping my toe in the water in terms of battle royales. Warzone to me has always been like the sweaty battle royale, the one that like you don't want to touch, but it's a very fun time. It's really nothing different from any other battle royale. It doesn't feel any sweatier. We were actually getting pretty deep into matches. So, obviously we're not the greatest COD players in the world. We're probably never going to win one. But it was really, really good time. And what's great about Warzone for anyone who is a Call of Duty fan, all the guns that you get in Warzone and you use them, the progression you get on those guns count towards your regular multiplayer levels. So all the stats you get from guns you find out in the on the map through loot boxes or whatever, all of that XP carries over into the regular game. So that's really cool how they kind of mesh those two worlds together. I don't know if that's how it was in the original Warzone. Like I said, I never jumped into it, but that just shows me that Call of Duty is really doing it right. And I remember it was a couple of weeks ago we talked about how they pulled in 800 million in the first 3 days. I mean, imagine now Warzone 2.0 dropping. They got this new DMZ mode. It's more popular than ever. Call of Duty is on the top of the world right now. And it's crazy how they've sort of recaptured the spirit of what it used to be. And it's been really, really fun playing that game. But in terms of God of War, I don't want to talk too much about it. I think we talked a bit on No Limits. We're going to do obviously a full review on it with the whole team once we all get through it. I think I'm probably going to be the last one to get through it because I've been taking a lot of time finding the side stuff, and also I have 3 days where I'm not going to be playing it right here.
You have 10 days, Ethan.
Oh, I'll beat it in 10 days. That'll be fine. But yeah, it's been an absolute blast. I'm probably going to be the highest out of anybody on the spoiler cast, honestly, from what I've been hearing from other people on the team. So look out for that when that drops. So that'll be a good time.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've told you guys nothing but rave reviews for God of War Ragnarok.
We're going to get so many thumbs down. It's going to be great.
Listen, all right? If people don't like discourse, all right, people can have different opinions, okay? I know plenty of other people who feel pretty similar to me, all right? Shout out Hogue Law and Ains from Season Gaming and a few others, but I'm just saying, you know, it's
a lot of people out there with bad opinions. You know what I'm saying, folks?
It's not the 10 out of 10 everyone says it is. That's all I'm saying.
We'll definitely break it down more in the review.
Yeah, for sure. Which again, I do like the game. I think it was well worth my time.
I think we all like the game.
I finished it this week, but I will get into my actual grievances. I will air them, if you will, on the review and spoiler cast. Apart from that, I have played. Can't believe I'm saying these words. Bee Simulator.
Yes.
No, not yes. Not yes. My so here at Save the Game Media, we do a thing called the Make Me Suffer tier on the Patreon. So it is a bi-monthly or every 2-month period where our patrons give me game suggestions, and then a poll goes up and it's like, hey, what awful game do you want to make Kevin play? And then make a video for our viewing pleasure about. And this period's game was Bee Simulator. So I played it yesterday, a whole whopping 2 hours to get through the game. Luckily, not too long. And my review is now live on the Patreon for anyone. And a review, I use that word loosely. It's a creative outlet. And personally, I think it's great. I watch it. I'm like, I'm a genius. I'm a genius. All right, hilarious content over there. Yeah. I'm a video savant. Okay, really underrated here.
With Bee Simulator.
So if you want my thoughts for some reason on Bee Simulator or Race with Ryan, or I forget what the other one we did. Peppa Pig.
Yes,
those are all available on Patreon.
Now, Kevin, you can complain all you want about these last 3 games you've done, but you just wait until Elden Ring comes to Game Pass or goes on sale for an absurd amount. We're going to get you to play Elden Ring one of these days. It's going to be part of the Save the Game Media lore going forward in time. I hope you know this. We're never going to drop it, and it's going to be great when it happens.
For this tier, I prefer the games to be something I can beat. And I mean, I guess you can never really beat Elden. I mean, you can beat Elden Ring, but can you beat it?
I don't think any of us are going to expect you to beat it. But spend 10 hours in the world. Make a valiant effort.
Well, I played one other game briefly, and that is Lappin', which we're going to talk about later on because it's a brand new Game Pass drop. It is a 2D side-scrolling platformer where you play as a rabbit. And I think the game I love the little art style. The bunnies are adorable. This art style they got going on is beautiful to look at. The gameplay, however, is not great, unfortunately. It's in-game preview. There's conversations and social links with the rabbits, and I was like, this is going very slowly. And then
Persona 5 level video.
I have no idea what they're doing. It wasn't what I want. I just wanted a fun platformer, and this game was dragging for. I played it for like 40 minutes, and it was like this. This is dragging. I don't know if I'm going to come back to this, especially because it doesn't got achievements. All right, game preview, fix it, sort it out.
That's awful. Nobody wants to do that.
I know, but we'll talk about that more later when we get to one of our news stories. So yeah, really just God of War Ragnarok. If you expected anything else, sorry. This is probably our shortest what you playing section ever, maybe. So we can dive straight into the news. So why don't you have a seat while I grab some books from the library and tell you this week's stories. Story number 1, Call of Duty on PlayStation. Yeah. Woo. I'm so sick of talking about this. Coming from Tom Warren at The Verge in an interview on Decoder, a show hosted by The Verge's Nilay Patel. Sorry if I butchered your name. Phil Spencer has, quote, settled the debate over the future of Call of Duty on PlayStation once and for all, saying, quote, it's not at some point I pull the rug underneath PlayStation 7's legs and it's, aha, you didn't write the contract length long enough. There's no contract length that could be written that says forever. The idea that we would write a contract that says the word forever in it, I think is a little bit silly. But to make a longer term commitment that Sony would be comfortable with, regulators would be comfortable with, I have no issue with that at all. Phil clarifies there is no strings attached by saying, excuse me, quote, native Call of Duty on PlayStation, not linked to them having to carry Game Pass, not streaming. If they want a streaming version of Call of Duty, we could do that as well, just like we do for our own consoles. There's nothing behind my back. It is the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 doing great on PlayStation, doing great on Xbox. The next game, the next game. Native on the platform, not having to subscribe to Game Pass. Sony does not have to take Game Pass on their platform to make that happen. There's nothing hidden. We want to continue to ship Call of Duty on PlayStation without any kind of weird, aha, I figured out the gotcha, as Phil said, our intent. I understand some people's concern on this. I'm just trying to be clear.
It almost reads like he got frustrated at people still trying to work around his words, and he just stood up and yelled in the face of the interviewer, we're keeping it on PlayStation. We're keeping it on PlayStation. Like as many different ways as he could say it, that they're keeping it on PlayStation. And his remarks about how you can't just put forever in a contract, I think that makes complete sense. Nobody's ever going to sign a contract or draw up a contract that is forever anything, especially when it has to do with business and finance. So I completely understand where he's coming from there. So I think this is him just basically just hammering that nail in the coffin, saying we're keeping it on PlayStation, because I feel like a broken record. Ever since this story broke, I've said it time and time again. It makes sense for Xbox to keep Call of Duty on as many places as it can, because the more people that are part of the Call of Duty ecosystem, the better experience it is for the gamers and the better experience it is for the business, because you're making a crap load more money. If you shut it off from PlayStation, you're losing a lot of your revenue there. We just talked about probably over $1 billion already in the first couple of weeks of Modern Warfare 2's launch. I would cut that probably in half by 500 million if you lock out PlayStation players. So
probably more.
Probably more. I think more PlayStation players play on Call of Duty on PlayStation than Xbox. There's definitely more Call of Duty players on PlayStation. But finally, just he said it plainly. I think we should put it to bed. If this comes up in 10 years that he's taking it off, we can talk about it then. But it's not going to happen in the foreseeable future right now.
It's just like Tom Warren was teasing this last week because he was like, because literally we've had multiple shows now where I have excluded Phil saying something about this because I'm just so sick of talking about it.
Yeah.
We brought it up when, like you said, with the Call of Duty money and how much it makes. And then he went on iJustine's podcast and said the same thing. As long as there's a PlayStation, we'll ship Call of Duty there. And everyone was still all like, well, what if PlayStation? Oh my God.
I don't know how much more clear you can make it.
To me, that was the clearest thing. But I think you're right, where Phil has clearly gotten a little annoyed at people because he even makes fun of them here. It's like, oh, well, Phil said intent. We need to drop it. We need to stop with all poking holes in statements. Like, he's a CEO of a mega corporation. Yes, there are things he has allowed to say. There's going to be some PR speak, but at this point, it's very clear to every single human being Call of Duty is going to stay on PlayStation.
Yeah, and I think it's also very important for Xbox to make it clear to investors that Call of Duty is going to stay on PlayStation. Because, like I just said, it's going to bring in a crap load of revenue. So, as an investor, you'd want to know if you're locking out a large population of gamers out of the one of the most profitable games that you have. So, this is it. Probably was beginning of like, we're going to release PR statements to say it's staying on PlayStation, and that didn't work. And the public still was saying they're going to take it off. And eventually they got to the point where it's like, okay, investors are going to start getting scared here. They're seeing the investigations by the CMA. They're seeing all these different regulatory bodies saying, hey, you guys might take it off PlayStation. We need to make it clear to investors it's not coming off of PlayStation. And I think this is Phil Spencer just getting upset about that and being like, just telling the world, we're not taking it off. Stop saying we're taking it off.
Mm-hmm. And this comes shortly after. So, like, and you're not on Twitter anymore, but end of last week, there was someone who works at the CMA, but isn't, or maybe the EU, I don't remember which. He works in one of the organizations over there, but he's not involved in the actual like decision making for acquisitions and mergers and stuff. So, but he tweeted out specifically that like, we're going to do our due diligence to make sure that Call of Duty remains on your PlayStation, including my PlayStation. So he put himself out there being like,
that's weird.
Like, bro, dude, you're not involved in this. I understand you want Call of Duty to stay, but you clearly know people are going to look and be like, he works for this organization and he's illustrating some bias already, where luckily it came out he's not involved in any of that. It is still a bad look, but it's hilarious that like 2 days later, Phil is out here being like, regulators, I don't know what else you want me to say.
Yeah, and another thing that I think could easily tick Phil Spencer off is a lot of the statements that have come out of the CMAs and various regulatory bodies have shown clearly that they don't understand the industry. I understand these regulatory bodies aren't meant to be subject matter experts for all these industries that they're evaluating, but just the fact, I think some statements have said like Xbox might take it off of PlayStation and PC. In what world are you thinking Xbox is taking Call of Duty off of PC? They have their own PC app that they could run it off of. That doesn't make sense. So it's just clear that these regulatory bodies don't really understand the industry as well as maybe Phil Spencer would like. And this is just him getting angry about it. And I love to see this side of Phil. I love to see him just finally cut off all the PR stuff and just start yelling at people. It's great.
The year is 2026. Phil's doing another interview, getting asked if Call of Duty is going to leave PlayStation. He just flips the table and walks out.
It's going to happen, folks. It's going to be great.
Well, we can, a little more news came out of this interview, specifically what the Activision Blizzard King deal is actually about, and it isn't Call of Duty. Once again, speaking on the Decoder podcast, Phil Spencer says that mobile gaming is seeing far higher growth than console or PC. Phil states, quote, if we're not able to find customers on phones on any screen that someone wants to play on, you really are going to get segmented to a niche part of gaming that running a global business will become very challenging. It's critical that if you're trying to run an at-scale global gaming business, that you meet your customers where they want to play, and more mobile is the place people want to play. If that was a little too PR speaky, essentially Phil is saying the console market hasn't grown and Xbox needs elsewhere to sustain their business. However, Phil added, quote, the idea that the Activision deal is all about Call of Duty on console is a construct that might get created by our console competitor, subtly taking a shot at Sony by saying, I don't see Nintendo complaining about the deal.
Yeah, there he is again, getting a little upset. You can tell Phil is just kind of irate about this whole situation. But of course, this deal was about mobile. It was also about Call of Duty and all the other IPs that Activision Blizzard holds. It was about it all. But he's right in the fact that if you want to make money in gaming, the mobile market is something you should tap into. We've seen PlayStation tap into the mobile market. Nintendo has Pokemon Go and the new, I think it's Pikmin Go. Is that what they're calling it? Or is it whatever
something, I don't know, Pikmin something.
It's basically Pokemon Go with Pikmin. Everybody is dipping their toe in the water or plunging headfirst into the mobile market, and it makes sense. I've always said, just as long as it doesn't affect video game development on consoles that we love to play, that we're enthusiasts about. I have no problem with it if they want to make some extra money on mobile market. And like I said, everybody has one of these things. So everybody basically has the console already. You're reaching billions and billions and billions of people. I think the world population just got to 8 billion. Shout out to 8 billion people. But that's a lot of people.
Too many people.
That's too many people. And probably about 4 billion of them have these mobile devices that can play a game on it and generate revenue for you. So it makes sense. I see nothing wrong with this statement.
How many people have smartphones in
I'd say like half, right?
world? In total, the number of people that own a smartphone and feature phone is 7.26 billion.
That can't be right.
Making up 91% of the world's population. That's according to this bankmysell.com.
What's their definition of a smartphone, though?
I don't know. I also
people out here with Blackberries calling them smartphones.
Statista says it's 6 billion.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And the console, and for any of those, the console market, I think, has been often touted as kind of caps out in the 300 million range.
Still a lot, but not compared to 6 billion.
It's not even 1 billion. So, listen, I think that. Well, do I believe that Call of Duty wasn't a big part of the deal? No, absolutely not. I think Call of Duty is obviously a big part of the deal. It's going to be a giant moneymaker for them. But Candy Crush is also a giant moneymaker. That makes billions of dollars over on mobile. I don't understand what you're all doing. It's Bejeweled just reskinned. What are you all paying for?
And it makes billions of dollars consistently.
Without
having to make a new game.
I honestly, before they made the deal for Activision Blizzard, I thought Candy Crush had died. I did not know this was still a thing because I remember playing Candy Crush back on my iPad in 2014. And I just assumed it's a mobile game. It was a little fad. It probably went away. I didn't realize they were raking in billions of dollars. That's absurd to me.
And it's really just people buying I don't play Candy Crush. So if anybody out there plays Candy Crush, correct me. But a lot of these apps are like, hey, pay $2 to get rid of ads. And if you have 1 billion people, pay $2 to get rid of ads, and then also ad revenue. Obviously, when I played Candy Crush, you could only do a certain number of levels in a day, and then you had to pay to unlock to progress more. I see.
So I don't know if that's still the case, but I can imagine people. Like, oh, I really want to play. If you're addicted to the game, you're going to want to ship out some money. I'm sure they've innovated on it in the last 8 years since I've played Candy Crush. But
right,
it makes complete sense to me that they would want this because we've seen Xbox try to enter the mobile space already with things like Gears Pop. I don't know. Have you?
Gears Pop. They had a Horizon or a Forza Horizon mobile game,
and they failed. They failed horribly.
Yeah.
So bringing in a publishing arm developer like King, who is very successful in this field, to then be like, hey, we're going to take over that revenue stream. Here's a bunch of our IPs, make us some good quality mobile games so that we can start attracting people. And if you get those people in on the mobile side, then it can lead to sales on console. Hey, I really like this. I want to go play more Gears of War. How do I get that? Game Pass, they could stream it to their phone. There's tons and tons of ways. So makes complete sense to me. I don't see how anyone could argue against the deal being about mobile as well as Call of Duty.
Yeah. And World of Warcraft and Overwatch.
And World of Warcraft. Yeah. So anything else to say on that, Ethan, before we move on?
Hopefully I'll never talk about it again, Kevin.
Oh, I actually looked and I was like, when was the last time we had a thumbnail that referenced Call of Duty? It was 9 episodes ago.
9?
So about 2 months ago.
Really? We didn't do one for
Modern
Warfare 2's launch?
No, we did something else.
Missed opportunity there, Kevin.
Listen, you can only go to the well so much, all right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's coming dry. But story number 3, Thunderful Games acquires Jump Ship. And if you're unfamiliar with Jump Ship, they're the company founded by Chris Olsen and former Playdead CEO and founder Dino Patti, who just released their first game, Somerville. They're set to be acquired. It was announced yesterday, and it said the acquisition was going to be completed that day. So if that's true, these small acquisitions get done like
Oh
instantly.
yeah, they don't even need to be reviewed. Just like, all right, it's like buying a carton of milk.
Yeah. Thunderful Games says they've entered into an agreement to acquire the company, and that's really all there is. It seems they're now underneath it. I haven't played Somerville. I know Hopple has in our Discord. He was talking about it. He said it's a shortish experience. I think he enjoyed it for the most part, but it wasn't a perfect experience from what I understand.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Limbo and Inside, which are the two games that these developers had previously worked on, and what sort of Somerville is inspired by. And like you said, that it didn't necessarily perform as well as those two games, but that's because this is a breakaway studio. You know, this is their first game. It's not going to be the perfect polished experience. I mean, it could be. We've seen studios do it before, but it sort of makes sense. But it's cool to see them get acquired real quickly because there's obviously talent there, and there's obviously an audience for this type of game. I'm one of them, loving these type of games. I do plan on playing Somerville. I'm actually probably going to play it on cloud while I'm here in Port Aransas at night when I have some free time. Either that or Pentiment. I got to pick up one of those two games. They seem like good cloud games. But yeah, it's really good for them. Thunderful Games is a really great publisher. I love these big indie publishers that are starting to come out of the woodworks, like Annapurna and Thunderful, and they're getting their flowers, and they absolutely deserve it. We saw a bunch of nominations for indie games at the Game Awards, which is really awesome to see. One of them is up for Game of the Year, which is insane. I don't know if I necessarily agree with Stray being on there, but we'll talk about that during our prediction show. But yeah, it's really cool to see these little dev teams get picked up by these big indie publishers and get some more financial backing so they can put out some really cool polished products for us. I'm really excited.
Yeah, Thunderful is kind of a publisher that's come out of nowhere. Very
Yeah, I remember
recently.
their showcase last year. I didn't even know who they were. They did this big showcase, Thunderful Games. I think it was during Gamescom. And I remember seeing a lot of the games they were publishing, and I'm like, holy crap, where did these guys come from? This is awesome. There's a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, they are kind of building a rapport and bigger catalog in the industry. I know one of my games that I really enjoyed came from Thunderful last year, and that was the Gunk. They
Yes,
published the Gunk.
yep.
They also, I'm just looking at some things they've published here. This is very much, if you look back at their old catalog to now, you see they're gaining more and more relevance. Deadly Premonition 2, Pumpkin Jack, which I loved. I platinum.
Oh yeah, I
Pumpkin Jack.
remember you
That's a
loved
great
that game.
Then we go to a little further. Aerial Knights Never Yield. I played that game as well. You get Lost in Random. They had a part in apparently.
Oh,
The Gunk is right there. And then I think this year is really where they start coming into it. Hell Pie, which is a crude 3D platformer that I do want to check out at some point. Curse to Golf, really great indie game.
oh right, yeah.
Yeah. Lego Brick Tales, in case you were unfamiliar with that. And then they have a game called Wavetail coming out that looks really good.
Yep.
Toggles and Planet of Lana, which is a very highly anticipated indie game that's coming out next year. So they are gaining more and more relevance, and to see them add this jump ship to their studio lineup is really great, because we know the quality that Jump Ship can produce. Even if the games weren't for me, like I'm not a big Limbo or Inside guy, but we know that they can produce quality indie games, and this just makes that publisher so much stronger.
Right. And also shout out to your Pumpkin Jack review. Everyone go check that out. It's on our channel.
I forgot
you did a review on it.
I forgot I did that. Yeah. Great game. Great Halloween game, especially. If you like 3D platformers, if you like Halloween, it's always on sale. I got it for like $7 or something. It's fantastic. So good for Thunderful. Glad to see them coming into it. But we can go on to story number 4 here, Ethan. Flying through these. Game Pass update number 2 for November. And can't believe I'm saying that. The year is flying. So available right now, you can play Dune Spice Wars for PC. I got a Game Award nomination for best strategy game, I think.
Something like that.
You can play Ghost Lore for PC. You can play Lappin for cloud, console, and PC. And like I said, is a 2D platformer game featuring a group of brave rabbit explorers. Norco for cloud and console. Available November 22nd, you have Gungrave Gore for cloud, console, PC. November 29th, you get Insurgency Sandstorm and Soccer Story for Cloud Console PC. November 30th, Warhammer 40K Dark Tide for PC. Any of these piquing your interest there?
The only game that I've sort of been keeping my eye on is Gungrave Gore. I remember seeing the previews for that a little bit back, and I was pretty interested in kind of a super actiony, violent shooter. Looks pretty fun. Other than that, no. I remember Hopple was saying they were excited about Norco. I'm not sure what that's about. This is the first time I'm hearing of it, so I might need to go check it out and see what that's about.
Yeah, I don't even remember what that game is. Let me Norco.
And
Right
then
there.
Insurgency Sandstorm, that's a first-person shooter. I don't know if you got a chance to pull me away from Modern Warfare 2 to play another first-person shooter. So, but shout out to anybody who enjoys that.
Norco is a Southern Gothic point-and-click narrative adventure game.
Ooh.
Probably not for me,
I
unfortunately.
mean, Treasure Island. I gotta try and play that. If I like Treasure Island, I might pick up Norco.
I know I won't enjoy those games, but I'm glad for anyone that does. I'm right there with Gungrave Gore looks awesome. It was, I don't know if anyone remembers, but it was originally like a old PlayStation game. Very old. Um and this is, I don't know if it's a remake, sequel, but this game looks awesome. It looks very action packed, action filled. My only issue is, and I'll probably download it and I probably play it next year. It comes out the same day as Evil West, and I'm much more
Oh,
excited
right,
for
yeah.
Evil West.
And those two games are kind of similar in the
Very
sense that they're big
yeah.
guns, action focused. Yeah,
Yep.
I might be playing Evil West. Sorry.
Oh, shout out to Bowza in the chat for stopping by. Says, hi, Lappin is okay so far. Didn't get very far, though. I agree. That's how I felt with it as well. I don't know with all the other games coming out that I'll have time to get back to it anytime soon, but I really like the art style. So Lappin obviously was what I was interested in, but my big one here, Soccer Story, man. I am so excited for Soccer Story. This game looks awesome.
Is this like a soccer life sim
No,
game? What is this?
it's a open world soccer RPG.
What? That
Yeah.
sounds like a bad Steam game that came out.
So
What's going on here?
do you know Golf Story or like Sports Story or any of those? Like,
Sports Story sounds familiar. I'm not sure though.
so Soccer Story, you're going to be a soccer player, and apparently there's going to be a few soccer games in the game, but essentially you'll have like a magic soccer ball, and you'll explore the world and use your little ball to fight like bad guys in combat.
This took a turn I was not expecting. Whoa.
It's kind of like it's like dodgeball. I'm thinking of it like Dodgeball Academia, right? Like I love that
Oh,
game,
that
and it
was a good game.
has a very like the little like 2D sprite art style. Like I think it looks very good. I'm super excited for it. So is Locklith. Shout out Carpool Gaming over there. Her and I were freaking out about it. So I will hopefully we'll have a review coming for you about Soccer Story. So maybe stay tuned for that. But I'm super excited for that one. That is my go-to, and the fact that it's coming to Game Pass. It's coming from No More Robots, which Mike Rose, we've talked about 1,000 times, really loves Game Pass. Let's Build a Zoo just came a few months ago, so big supporter of that publisher of the service.
Glad you're excited.
Yeah, bro, I can't believe you haven't seen Soccer Story.
I've never heard of this. This sounds crazy. It might be a little crazy for me. I love it.
Oh man, I don't want to deal with a copyright claim, so I was gonna play it for you, but it's not worth it. It's not worth the copyright claim. So
Yeah.
we will go on to story number 5. Cloud gaming is expanding. Xbox announced via Xbox Wire that they are expanding and improving their offering to the Samsung TV cloud gaming app. Previously only supported on the 2022 Samsung Smart TVs, the Xbox Cloud Gaming app will now be coming to select 2021 models, and Controller Rumble is being added to enhance your experience. You got a Samsung TV over there, Ethan?
No. I got an Xbox. Like I get there's a use case for this. It's for people that don't necessarily want to drop 500, but maybe they want to play a couple games here and there, like Disney Dreamlight Valley or something. They want their kids to play some of these, or like Peppa Pig or something like that. Obviously, there are games that you're not going to be able to play on cloud. You're not going to be able to play Call of Duty on cloud. You're not going to be able to play Halo Infinite on cloud. There's a very specific use case for this, and it's cool that Xbox is expanding it. I mean, Xbox has continued that mission of saying we want our games to be on every screen possible. That's essentially what their strategy boils down to. And this is just continuing that trend. I don't know why you can't retroactively add the app to other TVs. I don't know why it's select 2021. I don't know if maybe
it has something to do like the Wi-Fi chip in the TVs. Like it's not strong enough to have like a good streaming experience.
I mean, you're not going to have a good streaming experience if you have anything less than really good Wi-Fi. I'm going to tell you, where actually my wife is playing Disney Dreamlight Valley right now, and I actually see it's on the crash screen. So hotel Wi-Fi ain't doing it for us, but hopefully it'll do it for Pentiment later tonight. But either way, it's cool to see them moving on and getting this on more screens.
Happy Cloud Gamer in the chat says, I need a Samsung TV for my kids' room so I can add family plan Xbox Game Pass Ultimate.
That's a great use case right there. Exactly. Yeah.
It would be, instead of buying them a console, you can just get them a TV, which is undoubtedly cheaper if you go for the lower end models. Yeah. I don't know if
the kids don't need an 80-inch OLED or nothing.
Come on, be a good to go. I can't imagine having this TV to the side of me when I was a kid. That would have been insane.
Too much.
So I think this is great. It's cool, expanding more. Hot take: controller rumble does nothing for me. I turn rumble off in games.
That is a weird take. I love rumble, except in horror games. I turn it off in horror games.
I don't like rumble. I keep the adaptive feedback or the haptic feedback on for my DualSense.
Yeah.
But traditional rumble, I do not enjoy. I don't like. I just can't do it. And it's weird because like I'll play Smash Bros and turn it off there, but like the rumble is kind of, it comes in handy sometimes. Like it lets you know like what you're getting hit by and all that. But I just find it so intrusive. I can't deal with rumble. And I've seen people say it like is bad for your hands.
I don't know about all that, but I mean, maybe when I'm 80, we'll see. I'll make the report. I'm gonna have arthritis anyways. The amount of video games that I play, but I didn't like rumble back in the day when it was literally just just like shaking your hand like the 360 controllers. But HD rumble all the way. I'm loving it. I love it how the rumble sort of tracks around to where you are. If like, especially on the PlayStation controller. I mean, I know we're on an Xbox podcast here, but PlayStation, you guys know how to make a controller. Playing Astro's Playroom with that haptic feedback. I know not every game has that level of depth in the haptic feedback, but it's pretty damn cool. I'm loving it.
Mm-hmm. I was the review I recently did for Ys 8. I should have mentioned that because I did play a little of Ys 8 for my review for the PS5. Yeah, check it out. Lots of people are checking it out. It's one of our highest viewed videos already. And we're like 3 subs away from 600 on YouTube. So if you could come help us out, audio listeners, if you haven't yet, Save the Game Media over on YouTube. But I was very disappointed that game did not have any rumble or any no DualSense features whatsoever. I was like, there's nothing about this that makes
it really is just a port, right? So you have to expect that.
But what's the point? It's a double A anime JRPG. You can only make it look so good. It still looks like a.
Is it like an upgrade, or are they actually selling it to you though?
No, they're selling it for $50.
Oh, then you got to add something.
$40. They made the colors brighter and it looks better. That's it.
All right. I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. But we can move on to what might be one of the biggest stories. Bethesda has a response to Mick Gordon, and you weren't here last week, Ethan, but I did read your little summary with Ryan about the Mick Gordon versus id Software situation. So as we covered last week, Mick Gordon, the composer behind Doom Eternal, and more, released a statement criticizing his treatment while working on Doom Eternal, and specifically criticized id Software studio head Marty Stratton. Well, Bethesda has responded by saying, quote, The recent post by Mick Gordon both mischaracterized and misrepresented the team at id Software, the development of Doom Eternal, Marty Stratton, and Chad Mossholder, with a one-sided and unjust account of an irreparable professional relationship. We are aware of all of the details and history in this matter and unequivocally support Marty, Chad, and the team at id Software. We reject the distortion of the truth and selective presentation of incomplete facts, and they use facts in air quotes. We stand ready for full and complete documented evidence to disclose in an appropriate venue as needed. The statements posted online have incited harassment and threats of violence against Marty, Chad, and the id Software team. Any threats or harassment directed towards members of our team will be met with swift and appropriate action to protect their health and safety. We remain incredibly proud of id's previous collaborations with Mick Gordon and ask fans refrain from reaching conclusions based on his account, and more importantly, from attacking any of the individuals on either side, including Marty, Chad, or Mick.
Yeah, obviously don't attack anybody, right? Like that's a good place to start, is don't throw attacks at id Software or Mick Gordon or any of these people involved in this. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. The accusations that Mick Gordon laid out at id Software and Stratton are pretty damning. They're if anybody wants, he put up a whole novel. I would call it a novel. It's a very long read. I read the entire thing. It's very, very intricate, very detailed. He gives evidence, he gives screenshots, and it's really hard not to be on his side on this one because of how much evidence he has and how much detailed accounts he has of what happened with the obvious breakdown in communication that he had with id Software. There's a lot of horrible accusations in his thing, like him being locked out of audio meetings, them using more music than what they paid for. There's a whole slew of accusations that he leveled against them. And, you know, this statement by id Software very much is a PR statement. It's a spicy PR statement, but it is a PR statement nonetheless. And any evidence that they're going to bring out is probably going to be in a courtroom. It's not going to be out in public like Mick Gordon did. But Mick Gordon very much is a man that's sort of on his last legs here because his career has really been affected by this whole Doom Eternal fiasco. Apparently he's been having a really hard time finding work, which it kind of lines up because he hasn't been a part of any major video game release since Doom Eternal. And Mick Gordon's a guy that has worked on a lot of really massive AAA titles and followed through and created incredible soundtracks. I just went through most of the Wolfensteins earlier this year on Game Pass to catch up with them, and he did all the soundtracks for those, and they are incredible soundtracks. And he did a good job. He did it on Prey. Killer Instincts is another project he worked on, and he's worked on a lot of other stuff too. Not as like the big composer for everything, but he's been in the business for decades, and he's been doing a really great job. And it's weird that this is the one project that somehow fell apart, and id Software is saying that he can't handle the pressure when he very clearly can. It is kind of funny, id Software with this saying that this is a one-sided accusation. Well, that's what the original Reddit post was.
I was gonna bring that up. I was
exactly.
like, you know how hypocritical it sounds to be like, don't believe his one-sided thing.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Marty Stratton was like, let me just type up a Reddit post that only gives our account of the events, and then that's what you have to live with.
And the way that came about, according to Mick Gordon, the way that came about is that this had already been happening. Obviously, the controversy with the OST and the album that was coming out and the collector's edition that didn't come with the OST and all that stuff. And basically, Mick Gordon sat down with Marty Stratton and said, or not sit down, they had a Zoom call. And they came to a conclusion that, hey, this was a breakdown in communication. We're going to release a joint statement about everything. And then that joint statement was Marty Stratton going and creating this Reddit post and basically putting all the blame on Mick Gordon without even talking to Mick Gordon about it. So it's very clear that they've done it one-sided. Mick Gordon is now doing it one-sided, and it's boiled down to a he said, she said situation where it doesn't look like we're going to get any of the true facts. But as it stands now, it's hard not to be on Mick Gordon's side, because just the sheer amount of evidence that he presented in his post, and I do encourage people to go read it if you're interested about this story. There's a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of insight into how the industry works, into how music is created for these video games. So it's actually a really cool learning opportunity as well. But there were a lot of issues between his relationship and id Software that I'm hoping there's some more responses after this. I don't want this just to be a PR statement and then it goes dark again and we don't see anything done, because Mick Gordon's an incredible composer. He's made some incredible soundtracks and he deserves to be back in the industry. And I don't think this is fair to him.
Yeah, so I will agree with you. I do not think he is getting fair treatment here. Especially because by his account, he asked, was like, hey, just take down the post. Like, well, we can kind of move on from this, but you're ruining my reputation. Right. And they're refusing to do it. So like, you can't have it both ways, right? You can't be like, well, we're gonna make this dude look terrible, but don't believe what he said. Like, people have a right to defend themselves. They have a right to be like, this is my truth. And right. Bowser brings it up. Did the internet not learn to believe one-sided stories? Obviously a reference to the Helena Taylor with Bayonetta story, where everyone was like, yeah, like, screw Platinum, like, we need to jump on this. And then it turned out like
it got really bad.
she wasn't telling the truth. So as I said last week, like, I'm kind of staying in the middle. I do think Mick Gordon has a lot of credibility from what I read, especially because he brought some receipts with some emails and everything. But Bethesda's obviously taking a different approach and going all corporate, and we're gonna hold off. If it needs to get legal, it'll get legal. But before, I mean, Mick Gordon's career, he was basically he was doing a lot of Nickelodeon projects and Need for Speed, and then he really hit it off in 2013 with Killer Instinct, and then he moved on to Wolfenstein. He worked on Doom. He worked on Prey. He worked on Wolfenstein again, Borderlands 3, Doom Eternal, and he does have Doom some
2016.
Projects.
He won a game award for Doom 2016.
Yeah, he does have some more projects. So he is doing the music for Atomic Heart, which is coming out next year.
Oh, that's cool.
And then apparently something called Routine he is working on. This is TBA. I don't know what that is. Yeah. So he is getting back into the industry after a few years where he wasn't really working as much as he probably wanted, because he was doing multiple games basically every year until this controversy, where maybe COVID played a factor into it, 2020, but I do think most likely the Doom Eternal situation did negatively impact him. And the man has a right to make a living. Like, if this professional relationship did crumble, like, it's best to just sever it, move on. Like, we don't need either. If what he says is true and he's like, I just don't want my name dragged through then just take it down. Everyone can go away amicably and we'll move on from this. Like, it doesn't have to be, well, id Software is in the wrong, Bethesda is protecting like a bunch of horrible people, or it doesn't have to be Mick Gordon's lying to take down id Software. It could be these were both of their experiences and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but let's just let's just go.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, though. Unfortunately, it does seem like this is going to boil down to a bloody court battle. Because Mick Gordon, one of the accusations is that he wasn't paid for some of his music. And that is something that he can take them to court on. And then obviously with that whole court case, everything else comes out. We see that with other court cases in the gaming industry, that if it's just one specific issue, it broadens out to everything else. So I'm sure we're going to get more info on this. I'm sure we're going to get some answers, and hopefully they come soon and we don't have to be in the dark for a couple of years or something while proceedings happen.
I would love to know what Xbox higher ups think of what's going on, because this is a statement from Bethesda, who obviously they're owned by Xbox, so Xbox undoubtedly aware of the situation. But it is interesting that they're like, we're going to let Bethesda handle this instead of Xbox proper.
Yeah, it's probably a nightmare for them. They're probably not happy about it, because the whole thing with Phil Spencer and Microsoft is they're trying to change the culture of video game development. And this very much is indicative of a terrible, toxic culture in game development. Everything that's been said, crunch time, not being paid on time, all these things, they are in these accusations. This was obviously done prior to their acquisition, so they were not under Xbox when this happened. So I mean, maybe they wanted to take the step back because this is Bethesda's doing, straight up. But maybe they step in later on to try and clean things up. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, there's more drama because story number 7, Activision Blizzard games are leaving China. Announced in a blog post today, Activision Blizzard, the gaming publisher, will suspend most of its games services in mainland China as of January 23rd, 2023. This comes after failing to come to a licensing agreement with NetEase, who has provided Chinese gamers with the product since 2008. The NetEase president then took to LinkedIn to express his displeasure, saying, quote, as a gamer who spent 10,000 hours in the world of Azeroth, StarCraft, and Overwatch, I feel so heartbroken as I will no longer have the access to my account and memories next year. One day, when what has happened behind the scenes could be told, developers and gamers will have a whole new level of understanding how much damage a jerk can make. Feel terrible for players who lived in those worlds. There's no reference to who this jerk is. I see people speculating it's Bobby Kotick.
I mean, that's probably not it. I mean, people just want to pile on him, and I get it.
Yeah.
But, it's just some jerk. Kind of a funny little statement, but it is a serious thing. A lot of gamers are losing access in China, and that sucks for them. But I guarantee you that some things came up in contract negotiations, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. It probably had to do with the government in China, and it probably had to do with human rights abuses, and it probably had to do with
censorship
or
telling their
control.
telling their citizens that they can only play 1 hour on weekends or more on holiday, like the ridiculous control they have over citizens.
And the entire point that Activision Blizzard has to go through NetEase to publish their games in China. I mean, that right there is a red flag, that it has to go through a entity that's controlled by the government in China. So obviously those things probably came up. There was probably some heated conversations. And there was probably a point where Activision Blizzard team just said, you know what, screw you guys. We're not going to get a deal here. We don't even want to deal with you guys anymore. So it sucks for players in China. But ultimately, it was probably for good reasons.
Yeah, I do find it hard. Just if this was another country, then I would probably be like more against Activision Blizzard. But listen, is it the Chinese? We've said this multiple times. Is the country of China bad? No, the people in China are great. The government in China are terrible. And unfortunately, the government has a lot of control in a lot of organizations like NetEase and Tencent that are involved in the gaming industry and that are kind of slowly censoring things like Guilty Gear. And I just listened to Luke Lore, friend of the show over on Xbox Expansion Pass. He had Colin Moriarty on talking about Lily Mo Games and how they publish on platforms. And Sony won't even let you have a reference to Taiwan in your games. Xbox and Nintendo don't care. So it is very much like censorship matters to creatives. And China is a very censored country. All right.
Yeah.
So it could be a lot of sticking points. It's very hard to say. I understand that the gamers didn't do anything, but
yeah. And then also, if anybody's ever interacted with the Activision Blizzard ecosystem, whether it be World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Call of Duty, you need a third-party account. With their systems, whether it be Battle.net or one of the other ones, the Call of Duty has their own account. You have to log into that. Chinese law, if you're a company in China, the government can subpoena any information it wants from you, and you can't say anything of it. So it could be privacy concerns as well, as that Activision Blizzard doesn't want to be collecting data on Chinese citizens that data can then be used to lock up political prisoners or send people to re-education camps like we've seen in northwestern China. I mean, there's a lot of privacy concerns also when dealing with the Chinese government, and Activision Blizzard could be just saying, we don't want to be involved in this crap anymore. This is ridiculous.
Fully agree. I just thought of a funny story when I was at work recently, and someone asked who's in control of TikTok, because we were talking about how Elon Musk is in control of Twitter now, and I didn't understand what they were asking, so I just said China.
China.
Not quite what they were looking for, but
no. They have like an American arm that they say is separate from the corporation in China, but who knows at this point.
Maybe I'll throw this clip up there and on there and see what happens.
Which clip?
Just us criticizing China.
Oh, we're done. We're getting blocked.
Getting blocked
I
on
don't think
TikTok.
is YouTube even in China?
I have probably not. I don't
They have
a lot
all
of,
their own social media
let's say,
stuff.
don't
They
a lot
don't
of Chinese gamers have, they have to use like VPNs and stuff to like get
Yeah.
games.
Oh, hey, maybe there for any of you Activision Blizzard fans in China. VPN it up. Let's go.
I don't think we have a single listener in China.
No, we don't. But still, hopefully they can figure that out and keep playing World of War. But there's workarounds. Gamers find workarounds for things. It's great.
Our last story of the day before we get into a question from the audience. Story number 8. Flying Wild Hog says Series S is not holding games back. In a recent interview with Xbox Dynasty, which is a German website, Flying Wild Hog lead producer Tomek Gop discussed building Evil West for Xbox Series X and S. The developer responded to criticism that the Series S version has the same specs as the Xbox One consoles. On Xbox One, One S, and Series S, the game will run at 1080p 30 FPS. That's the same for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro, while the Xbox Series X and PS5 versions will have a 4K 30 FPS quality mode and a 1080p 60 FPS performance mode. Quote, no, why should she? We're not forced to make the Series X look the same as Series S, so we're not limited as developers. As the same time, the Series S is an excellent market product. I know a lot of people who use it all in one box for family entertainment, says Gop. So, Ethan, bringing it back to a point we discussed a few weeks ago here, what are your thoughts?
I think it's just confirming what we all said that week when this story broke. The Series S is not holding games back. It's been a thing throughout time that there are consoles that don't have as much power as the brand new consoles, and you make games to work around that. It's fine. This is a non-issue, and I'm glad that we're seeing more developers come out and basically throw some cold water on it.
Yes, I agree with what he's saying, because we said at the time you don't have to make the two run the same, so it doesn't make any sense. Like, you scale for consoles, you scale for PC.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, however, 1080p 60 for your performance mode is not very ideal. Flying Wild Hog, that is 1440p 60 I can live with, but you're really 1080p 60.
I mean, these guys aren't a AAA studio, right?
That is my only saving grace, is they aren't a triple. They're an indie double A. Like, they're a smaller studio. They're
straddling
not,
that line.
Yes, they're not, because people were bringing up, well, God of War can run at this. I'm like, God of War is made by Sony Santa Monica, who is a first-party studio with the
hundreds of employees,
the technical expertise of, hey, we've had the PlayStation 5 longer than anyone else. Like, we know this thing in and out. It's completely different to compare certain studios. Like, first of all, talent is a thing, developer skills, engine. Like, there's so many aspects that go into game development. Yes, I would love to see these specs higher, because they could be higher on Xbox Series X and PS5. I do think I can live with 1080p 60, because
it'll be fine.
A few weeks ago it was only 60 FPS is acceptable. Drop the resolution. Now it's 4K or something close, 60 FPS. Like, at what point do we stop and just be like, guys, at the end of the day, if the game is fun,
exactly,
we're gonna live. Like, I played Plague Tale Requiem at 40 FPS and I loved it.
It was a blast. Yeah, it
was a great game. All right.
Yes, you think Pokemon Violet's going to be 60 FPS when that comes out in a couple days? Oh boy, you got
I saw some clips of Pokemon before we hopped on. The trainer's throwing a ball at Psyduck, and then it just goes to like slow motion, like 3 frames. I'm like, oh no, what's going on?
The Switch is chugging, folks, but the games are still fun on Switch. We're still playing them. Come on.
When I was playing, you play a Warriors game on Switch, all right? You're going to, when it drops to 12 FPS, all right, you're going to be like, this is so much fun.
That thing chugs on the Series S in a Warriors game. You know how much is going on that screen? Good Lord.
It's just it's different. I don't, like I said, Series S clearly not holding games back. I think developers still need to find how to optimize games, though. Like Gotham Knights, especially, I don't know what they rattled that CPU so bad. That's why it's just all about the way you build games. It's not as simple as just saying, well, drop the resolution, give us more frames. Like that isn't all that goes into making games. And I think
Right.
as a gaming community, we need to remember that we aren't the experts. We didn't make the game. We don't know what we're talking
Yeah.
about
If
for a
we
lot of
learned anything about that GTA 6 leak is that we don't know what we're talking about when
it.
it comes to get. I mean, we kind of have an idea, but the vast majority of people have no clue what they're talking about. This game looks like trash.
And you know what? The majority of gamers who are the casual market, they don't care. They're gonna
No.
buy their game, and if it's fun, that's all they care about.
Yeah.
They're not sitting there being like, "Oh, this is only 53 frames." Like,
Yeah.
it's not what they're
You know
doing.
what? We should bring Bree onto these conversations because she actually has a degree in video game development. So we do have somebody that knows a thing or two about video game development, folks.
I always forget Bree and is involved in.
Damn, you always forget Bree.
I always forget her.
That's awful.
It's just because she craps on me in the Discord all the time.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we all do, but that's okay.
Oh, hi Sean. He says we're live, baby. I
Yeah.
like the video. Thank you. Appreciate that,
thanks.
Sean. You showed up just as we're wrapping up.
Just
but
in time for us to leave.
we have a listener question. So if you would like to write in, you can tweet at us at Save Game Media, or you can join our Discord where we will ask for questions, or you can just give them unprompted, like Hopple, who says, which game has surprised you the most in a positive way lately? A game you would have never started on your own. For me, it was Vampire Survivors.
So for me, it's definitely As Dusk Falls. I played that game this year when it first came out. What was it, like 3 months ago now? When As
I think it was
Dusk
in
Falls?
July. I think it was in July.
Yeah, that was a game that I had completely written off. The art style was something that didn't speak to me. I thought it looked weird. I thought it looked clunky. I was like, this is just some weird art project that I'm not going to care about. But I played the game. It was on Game Pass, so you know me. I'm always trying these new games.
Mhm.
And it was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in a narrative video game. It was absolutely incredible. It completely changed my mind on how I look at art styles in gaming. I mean, Pentiment is a game that initially I wanted to write off, but immediately when I looked at Pentiment, I thought of As Dusk Falls. And I said, I'm going to give this game a chance. And I'm really excited to jump into it because the reviews have been incredible for Pentiment. But As Dusk Falls was an incredible game. It had incredible writing, an incredible story. It had really cool branching storylines. All your different decisions changed how the game played. And not once did I ever think the art style held it back. I actually think it really worked well with the story that they were trying to create there. So that game really changed my perspective on especially narrative games, but gaming as a whole. So yeah, I would say As Dusk Falls for me is that game.
It's a good pick. I was just looking through my list of 83 games here that I've played this year, trying to find, and I think the one I have to go with is Cult of the Lamb, because I thought it looked cute, but I initially was like, "Oh, it's a roguelite. I'm out." It's also it has the village mechanic where like Animal Crossing.
It had everything you hated.
It had two things I do not enjoy, but somehow I really liked Call of the Lamb. It was so much fun. I absolutely loved that experience. So that is definitely my pick for one where I was like, oh, I'm surprised I like this game, because on paper it should not work for me. It's not things I should enjoy, but
not a Kevin game.
No. Sean Capri says, I have a question. How's the job hunt going, Kevin? I have a job, Sean.
You don't have a job, Kevin.
As
right?
I've made very clear to you and many others at Carpool Gaming. I just came from my job. Okay. I worked 7.75 hours today. So take that.
Oh,
right?
I think you just go to the Subway down the street, you get yourself a sandwich, and you sit there and play on your phone all day.
There is a Subway right next to where I work, actually.
There's a Subway next to everything. They're everywhere, and nobody eats there. What's going on?
Last time I got Subway, I got halfway through the sandwich and went, I don't want to eat this anymore, and threw it away.
You got to get the sweet onion chicken teriyaki. That's where it's at. Oh, well, you can't. But anybody else out there who's not vegan, sweet onion chicken, one of the greatest sandwiches they have with the Miss Vicky's jalapeno chips, you're going to have a great lunch. All right. I'm telling you right now.
Don't go to Subway, folks. Don't do it. There's better places.
Go once. Come on. Their meatball subs are good.
I had Burger King tonight because I was like, I'm
You be crushing the Burger King. You're always big.
I was in my feelings. All right, I needed some Burger King.
You needed that Impossible Whopper.
I needed the Impossible Whopper and large fries. But that is all we have for this week, folks. So thank you so much for watching. Ethan, where can people find you?
In Discord. Come talk to me.
I just took your Twitter out of the description because I just remember I was like, oh yeah, he doesn't have this
still
anymore.
in there.
Yeah.
Page not found.
Bucky Blue says Firehouse subs.
Oh, I love me some Firehouse. Yeah, we get that all the time.
Before we go, Jersey Mike's trash. Don't eat there.
Stop it. All right, this is I Hate My Friends. We'll talk about that on
Don't eat there. You can find me at the Muffin Mon. It's a 1 instead of an I and an O instead of an A. Follow us at Save Game Media to stay up to date with all of our latest videos. We have a ton of content coming for you. Reviews. It's review season. Let me tell you, folks.
Yeah,
we'll see you next week. Goodbye.